Today, let's have a money talk. What's up everyone? How are you guys doing in this sunny day? So, today we've got a very juicy topic to cover, and I've got two super awesome guests for you. The first guest for today is Mariam from Israel. I have to say that I really admire her confidence in the process, in the management, and the way she communicates with her client. I believe that you just have to listen to what he has to say about it, and you will learn so much. The second guest we have for today is Jason, a product designer from Costa Rica who currently lives in UK. Also pretty inspiring story. Now, let's just not waste our time anymore and jump right into the conversations. But I have to warn you that we couldn't short it down to only 3 questions. That's why you'll have to listen to a huge range of different questions from me and from guys. We'll see you there. By the way, don't you forget to subscribe before watching it.
So at the beginning I started off as a graphic designer and I really had no clue.
Yeah.
I made a lot of mistakes. There was no one to ask, and I definitely undercharged for my work.
Okay.
And the way I lived was charging per hour and then seeing how much that would take and pricing that, but it was really bad. It was not good. I undercharged and I do not recommend it.
Yeah, we've all been there,
so
I
nowadays,
guess.
so I'm very open about my pricing and how I price and all of that, because I want to help the younger designers not make the mistakes that I did.
Yeah. Okay, so what were your top mistakes and how did you understand how to fix them? Like, what was this journey to find your way?
Well, not having a contract.
Okay.
Make sure you have a contract. And also just giving into any client revision and not doing discovery. Like, I never used to do a discovery process, and nowadays I have a very a more refined and tailored process where I just talk with the client first and understand their business needs and their business goals, and then I make a price based upon that. Okay. Which is we'll talk about the value by pricing system that I nowadays do. And I would definitely say to really take the time before the project starts to ask the client the right questions, so you're not going to be stuck in countless revisions later on.
Oh, back in the day, I had no idea how to do it, right? So what I did, I remember I started asking people around, like more experienced people in freelancing. I used to work in a digital advertising agency in Costa Rica when I started. So I was aware that there are a lot of people there that used to do a lot of freelancing. So I was just kind of like, how do you do it? How do you charge it? Like similar to other designers nowadays asking me, or how do you charge, right? When I started freelancing, I had a full-time job, right? So what I did is I took my full-time job salary and I just split it into 30 days and then the hours, and that gave me a very low hourly rate. It wasn't enough for me. It was like I wanted more. We always want more, right? So I tried a little bit of variations on that rate, but I was based in Costa Rica and not all the clients were ready for a higher rate, of course. So I had to stay a bit low for a while, but that allowed me to set up the goal to kind of like become a little bit better and polish some certain skills that I will offer like a unique value to my clients, and eventually I will be able to raise my rate a little bit, right? I was specifically on hourly rate base, and that also allowed me to learn to be very conscious about how I was spending my time and to keep track of my time, because that's what I was gonna use to charge my clients. So I had to be very careful on the hours, and I learned that on that experience. So I had to keep track of the time, and then I tried to increase by improving my skills a little bit, and then everything changed, right? I don't charge by hourly rate anymore, but that's how everything started. Right? But when I started, I wasn't very aware of the tasks that I had to do. You know, my job has been like on the way since I started, so I wasn't very aware of what task I had to charge, and I learned that on the way. But before it was just like a timer, okay, and I spend 6-7 hours, and this is what I'm charging to the client, right?
So basically right now you are like you're trying to specify all the terms and all the risks in the client proposal. So let's talk about it. If you have the proposal, how do you make sure you reserve good relationship when you have this contract signing with your client? That's the first question. So how do you handle these relationships? And second is, do you use legal consultant to help you to understand how much time it takes, what risk you should include and stuff like this?
If you have a client that doesn't want to sign your contract, and with any like if you hire a lawyer, there's going to be a contract. If you hire an accountant, there's going to be a contract. For whatever reason, if they don't want to sign your contract, then it is value design, and you have to ask yourself, do I want to work with this person or not? I do understand that sometimes you have to take the project, you need the money, whatever. There's no other clients, and that will be something that you will learn from, and hopefully will be fine. I get that. I'm not saying like, never do it, but no, it's going to be a hard time. And also, I do find by saying no to the clients with the red flags makes room for the better clients to come in.
Okay. Yeah, so basically you have to come to that level when you're confident that you can say no if the client just doesn't fit your, let's say, requirements or needs as a business owner also. Okay, so basically you have a legal consultant or anyone who helps you to create those proposals, or you just once created it or have some template?
You create it once, you hire your lawyer once. It's expensive, but just do it. You've got to if you're going to be serious. Yeah. I didn't do it after like at least 3 years in,
Yeah.
So I understand if you're a newbie and you don't have money for a lawyer, it's fine.
Yeah.
But once you start working with the big companies and the big brands, they're going to respect you more if you come with a contract. They're gonna, it's better for your brand and for your business to come with a contract. So get, when you take out that business loan or however you start up your business, put aside that money for the lawyer. It will pay in dividends, much later on.
Yeah. So talking of legal stuff as well, when you're signing the contract with your client, let's say in US, and let's say something went off, something wasn't good during the project, and you decided to break this contract, is it like how risky are those contracts actually, even for the client? Let's say he doesn't pay you the second part of the deposit. So like, can you come to this client and actually sue him, or it's just for like, kind of threat, but it's not really actionable? How do you feel about this contract, if it's actually working?
Thank God I've never actually had to act upon a contract. Usually people are quite respectful, especially when you've got a solid contract and you've got late fees and stuff like that. No one wants to pay late fee. And so I've not had to do that, but I do know of designers that have had to take their clients to court and had to send letters because it's enough money that it's worth it for them. Yeah. And some designers just let it go and they take it as part of. Sometimes in business you're going to lose some money. You have to weigh out in terms of the pros and the cons. How much money does this client owe you? Is it worth it to hire a lawyer? Is it worth it to take them to court and to send them all these letters? It's really case dependent, I would say.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's good to have, and I find, thank God I've never had this problem because of the contracts. And also, if you're a new designer, I would recommend just going on a resource like Smashing Magazine and just downloading one of their contracts and just changing it for you. So you have something until that one day that you're going to hire a lawyer,
Cool. Yeah. That sounds like a good advice.
What I do now is I measure the risk on the things that I cannot control. For example, the research. If there's something that that the client needs to provide me, and I don't know how that research is gonna be, if I have to go and perform some research by myself, and also if the product requires some user testing as well. This is not something that I can control at the moment. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, where I'm gonna find the users. So those two main aspects, they're related to research and testing. I kind of like disclose it with the client, and I openly talk about it, and we might incur in new expenses because of this. We don't know how we're going to recruit users yet. We don't know exactly the people that we need right now, so that might increase a little bit, but it's not something very specific also, right? It's just like, just in case it happens, we will figure it out, but it's usually on those two main aspects.
Yeah, sure. And okay, so when you sign the contract or the proposal with the client, do you make it like legally official, or it's more of a like, hey, here's the paper, check it out? It's not like, have to sign it and then send it to your like lawyer. Mm-hmm. Or so is it official, or it's rather more of a like not official agreement?
It's very rudimentary, actually. I don't have a lawyer. I'm not that big designer yet. What I do is I use a template that is kind of like created by a lawyer, but then it's just like a agreement between the two parties, right? There's no like legal stuff. Sometimes what I include, this is kind of like about other topic, but when I want to share some of the work in my social media, I kind of like put that up front in the contract as well. So it's when I'm talking about the pricing with them, and I try to approach that as well since the beginning, because I know I'll be sharing part of the process, even though I'm not disclosing anything related to the idea or the product itself.
Do you think of hours when you create value-based proposals? Do you think how much hours you would probably spend, and what risks and what, extra hours gap you have to include there? Or you don't think of hours at all when you create in your proposal, and you basically immediately know what's going to be the cost for this type of work or for that type of work?
So I would say our day, right, it's comprised of hours.
Okay, yes.
We only have so many hours in the day, and that's how, we do live in a time-based society.
Yes.
So for your own self, you have to think, okay, this project is going to take me 10 hours a week.
Yes.
It's going to be like 6 months, 10 hours a week. I'm going to deliver this at this point and this at this point.
Yeah.
And so that so the client feels like I am constantly generating deliverables for them, and we're signing off at the right point. So when you deliver the proposal, you're also delivering a timeline that you're putting 10 hours a week to this, because it takes you 10 hours to create X wireframe, because you know at this point how long it's going to take you to do that. If you're new, you don't know how long these wireframes are going to take you, and that's why I would say at the beginning, do hourly, but don't be shy. Do like $75 to $100 an hour, and do that hour, so you can get a sense of how, and track yourself, so you get a sense of yourself, how you work and how long things do take. So if you want to scale a design business, hourly just doesn't work. You're only going to get to a certain point, and how much more hours can you work? So having a value-based pricing system will also help you scale your business as well.
Yeah.
I try to avoid charging in an hourly rate based, because what happens is, and you will hear this a lot, what happens is when you get better, when you start working on a lot of different products, and over the years you get more experience, your productivity and you're more efficient, right? So I realized that I was charging clients in an hourly rate base, but I was spending just a few hours on those tasks, and from my internal business perspective, it was not viable, right? It was not that profitable anymore. So I try to avoid that.
Basically what you're saying, that it's okay to start as a junior charging hourly to learn what's your hourly potential, how much time you spent for this activity, that activity, so that you can have an idea about how to make this fixed price proposals, to know what's your timelines, what you're able to do in this time, and what you want to get from there.
If there's a requirement, if I have to charge by hourly rate for, the client wants it like that. If there's some, a redesign or some improvements on a previous project that I worked on in the past, I go with hourly rate on those kind of projects. But they're really short projects, like 2 weeks engagement, or I don't know, I need this for next week. I will first try to see if I can fit that into my schedule, and then I approach them with an hourly rate. But when my main focus, and when the product is something that is just coming up totally from scratch, we discuss it like a long-term project, and it's gonna be fixed priced, and the payments and all that stuff, we that's very flexible. Sometimes I try to manage it like a salary. We divided like the total amount of the project into a monthly basis, and I get a monthly salary if the project is too long, right? But if the project is if I, with my initial ballpark estimate and my initial planning, if that's taking more than 1 month, maybe more than 2 months, I would say one month, I kind of like manage in that way. If it's less than a month, it's just, as I said, a work that I can do in a week, 2 weeks, or even 3 weeks. That's not worth all the effort and all the kind of like fixed price in managing. So it's easier to go hourly rate, and also it's going to be more flexible for the client as well. So I would say if I'm gonna work on that project for more than a month, I will go fixed price, and then progressively, right, as the time goes.
So like 2-3 months retainer, 1-2 months fixed, and less than months hourly, or like also fixed.
Yeah, I would say that. I don't have it like a structure, right?
Yeah, but just an idea,
like that.
Yeah.
But it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, for me it's pretty much the same. I did the retainer when it was 4 months, fixed when it's 2 months, and I like, sometimes I still do hourly, even for like long-term projects, because it's like we still don't really know when it's gonna end.
Yeah.
And when it's like 10-15 hours, it's hourly for me usually.
Yeah, and you know what's funny, that we try to get out of the hourly rate. Sometimes it's the safer option because of that you just mentioned, right? We don't know how long this project is gonna be. It can be months, it can be a year, right?
Yeah.
So from our perspective, from our income perspective, can be sometimes the safer option, but it could be also a counter partner over there.
Yeah. But so far, I think in the these cases that I mentioned, first is, and it's a small project, let's say 15 hours project, really quick one, 2 days or 3 days work. It's really much better for me. And second case, it was also that I was working with consultant, and it would take him undefined time to get the feedback and get back to work and change the itinerary. And we really didn't have like strict timelines. So 1 month I would work 15 hours, and other months 40 hours, and it was really not clustered, not fixed. Everything would be really dependent on the feedback from the third party, from the client, like, and the consultant would be between us. For me, it was really safe to go with hourly base, and even though it was like 5 months project. So can you tell me a little bit more about how your UX projects are value based?
So it's so funny, like a client will call you and they'll be like, how much are you? And you'll be like, wait.
Yeah, wait.
I mean, they sometimes ask for an hourly rate, and I tell them the hourly rate, and then they go, oh my God, that's so much money.
Yes.
And I say to them, well, really what I do is first I do a discovery process with you, and I ask you questions, and then I'll go and I'll take those questions and I'll make a price based upon the metrics that I've received and the information that I've received from them in terms of the scope. And then they feel a lot better when they get a solid proposal showing them how you're bringing value. They're like, okay, of course it's going to cost X and Y because you're bringing Y to the table. But it's questions like, how will we measure success? What are the KPIs? How do we pay it done? Things like, asking like, how much revenue are you expected to bring in from this project? Is it revenue based? Is it time? Is the gain going to be saving time? Because you can get a CRM project which has nothing to do with revenue, or you get an e-commerce project where you're playing with such margins you can bring in millions. I've seen. From those questions, and then you've got a non-profit, so you'll take those questions and you'll charge differently for different clients.
Right.
I'll tell you, I had someone hired me recently who went they went a third over their budget for me. Why did they do that? Because I showed business value, and they said, it's fine, we think you're worth it, because it's sweet. But it's not just about my personality, it's also about I bring value to the table, and that's what I've championed my whole career, is show how design brings real business value to the table, and designers can get paid properly for their work, and just as decorators or artists or whatever, because nowadays with web analytics and eye tracking tools, we can really see the impact. And we can, in black and white, this is how we changed A/B testing, this is how we changed the value, and we can get paid what we're worth, and live better lives. You know?
So I was curious if you have any sort of like a formula for different types of a client, or you always have to sit and just think yourself like, okay, if they plan to have this revenue, and I can potentially have a confidence that I can make like this amount of revenue, etc., etc. And even if you are making these calculations, let's call, and saying them that here's what I can bring you, how do you ensure that you can actually bring it? So how can you be really confident about it?
So I won't necessarily make them a formula until I've done a deep dive into the analytics and the metrics. But what I do is I do display previous wins and previous metrics in the proposal, showing them what I can achieve and what I could achieve for you. And I would say, like, based upon, say for example, this page that's low performing, if we did X, Y, and Z, we could potentially get X. But it's a very hypothetical level. It's very hypothetical, and the only numbers that I will definitely write will be the past successes that I've had.
So to pick up your what you can do.
And then as you go on, and as you do the A/B testing and you see your results, just make sure you note them down and you track them.
Every time we start a new project like that, I will provide a client like a questionnaire, a general UX questionnaire, and after the initial conversations and the calls, what I used to do, or what I do actually, is try to outline the scope of the project, right? But this is a very high level overview, right? It's just not getting into too much details, just to consider a little bit of the task and the process. But based on all that, what I do is I create a ballpark estimate of time. Okay, this is the time that I'm spending on this project, and this is my ideal rate right now. This is what I want to make, and this is what I deserve, kind of like what I say to myself, right? So, and on top of all of that, I added like a 10% maybe of risk. And that gets me closer to that final pricing that I'm charging to the client. So basically, I'm counting and I'm using hours, but I'm giving the client a fixed price for all the project, and the hours that I invest or that I put into the project is totally up to me, because I'm charging for meet specific goals and deadlines and certain deliveries as well. So it's also like a more flexible way to do it, right?
And also, when like the problem with hourly, I feel like it's like people hourly, usually people do not expect it to be high. If you say hourly, people don't want it to be a couple of $100. People want it to be dozens bucks, and when you say this number up, let's say you say 100, people are like, oh no, that's a lot for 1 hour, 100, why? Like no, that's a lot. Like, and basically this throwing just random number at the people without explaining the value, explaining what goes behind, how much a thinking process is about it, people do not believe that that's 1 hour worth, right? So people don't want to see this. When you present the value, people are able to spend absolutely different sums of money, and that's why like hourly base kind of underestimated, I feel. And also it's very, very attached to the problem with like all these freelancing platforms like Upwork and Freelance.com and stuff, because basically if you think about freelancing in hourly base, you immediately think of that platforms, and those platforms do not sell their hours expensive enough, like those are pretty cheap hours. So basically sometimes there is this misconception, I guess. I also wanted to discuss with you, how do you know, or how do you come up with a number for your, let's say, hourly base? At the beginning, in the middle, let's say 3 years in, 5 years in, how do you define what is your price? Just by personal perception, just by, I don't know, like, again, thinking about what businesses I'm working with and what revenue I can make for them. Like, do you have any ideas about it?
So I think social media is really powerful in terms of being able to connect with designers all over the world and also within your own area, because demographic does play a part. And what you could definitely ask on Facebook groups of graphic designers, of UX designers. The power of social media is really empowering for us designers, because we can ask easily and quickly other people for their hourly rate, and we can see our market share within our own demographic.
That's enough for you for today. I hope it was insightful for you, as it was for me. I personally withdraw many interesting points that I want to apply in the future. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave your likes and comments, and I will see you in the next video. We will cover the topic how to build your own confidence. See you there.